Today we're going to show you how I make a Les Paul body with all of my jigs, all of my processes all put together in one video. First things first is you want to pick a couple pieces of wood. For the back I always like one piece mahogany or any kind of one piece. I also like going with straight flame maple tops on a Les Paul. What you want to look for in a one piece body is a nice piece with perfect grain running throughout. Now this piece has a little bit of run out right here. There's also some digs in here. The coloring also changes here, so when I stain it, I want to have this discoloration on the bottom of the guitar so you actually don't look at it. You see the other side here looks a lot better than this side, so that's why I'm going to glue to the top here. And then with my flame maple billet, I went through my billets and this has got a nice flame. I'm going to do a nice black burst on this guitar, and I picked out what I think has the best flame possibilities. You know, there's some run out over here, there's some other garbage here, so I'm going to size this billet and resaw it. For the top, I've got my two templates here, and what I'll do is I'll start with the body and I'll draw a center line. I'll screw this down, cut this out, and go with it. And then this will be second, and I'll help route this line and route some of the pockets out. So here, I just want to size and do an approximate straight line. I go back with my level, and I'll get a straight line through the whole body. So now I'll line this up. I'll draw this out. I always like drawing everything out, that way I've always got reference points as I'm doing this. Kind of know the approximate placement of everything then. Alright, next I'll take this template, use it to draw where the control cavity is going to be placed. Line it up. So here I route out the control channel. I go about a ½ inch down. Definitely doesn't need to be perfect. Just gotta make sure you got enough depth. Usually ½ inch to 3/4 inch is the right depth. I think this is more like 3/4. You know, I don't even really have to measure it. Next, what I'll do is I'll take my template, line it up with the center line and the cutout, drill a couple holes, and then take this over and cut it off on the bandsaw. My blade's a little bit dull here, but what I want to do now is after I've resawed this, I want to clamp it and leave it so that it sits for a couple days. That way if there's any movement, I've captured it. You know, this is a piece of maple that's been sitting in my shop for a while. It's got some crazy figure going through one of the sides, so I know it's going to move a little. Alright, so here I've got the maple top that I've just recently resawed stacked. I've got about 4 guitar body blanks on it, and I've got about 70 pounds. And what I'll do is I'll let this sit. Alright, so here's the Les Paul maple top. It's been sitting for a week. Next, what I got to do is sand this off, all the fuzz and saw lines on the drum sander, and then what I'll do is I'll put an edge on this and then I'll glue it. Make sure I got my depth set to about 0, just a little bit less. I'm going to run the top through both sides. Alright, so now we got the top all flat. I'm going to drop a bead of glue here. When I'm gluing tops, since I want to get pressure in the middle to keep it really nice and tight, I glue on a board here that I clamp down on both sides. I'll show you that. So here I'm going to run a little bit of glue. Seems about right. I already marked the board, so I want to make sure it lines up with the figure. I'm going to drop my clamping brace on the top. It's lined up. First clamp I'm going to drop is going to be in the middle. I bought this extra deep reach clamp from Woodworker Supply, so I can get right in the middle. This board is not going to move. Now I'm going to clamp the edges like I do with the body. Now we're going to just squeeze it together. Alright, here we are. Top is joined, glue is dry. Next thing I'm going to do is route out the body and then glue this body to the top and be all set. Now here I've got the center line matched up from the top where it's book matched to the bottom of the body. I've got it clamped down so it doesn't move when I drill these holes. Put in 3 screws here. I don't do just 2 because when I've screwed down before I've gotten some movement, so I want it to sit in the right spot. So I've got 3 screws. I take this off and I'm going to put some glue on the body here. So here's my wine press clamp. Clamp it down. I've got the boards and the rebar to squeeze the body together. It's off in the corner here, so it's out of my way. It's on wheels, so I can roll it around if I need to. Again, I'll let this sit for 24 hours. I'll cut the rest of the body out. What I'm going to do is draw the holes where I'm going to drill next. So 1/2 inch for the control and 3/8 for the control kit. Alright, so after the copy carver, you've got all these fine lines now on top of the guitar body. You've got a great curve, nice dome. All you want to do is take a sander, whatever sander of your choice. So you usually take a palm sander, and I go back and forth on the body, getting the lines out. Then you'll start to see the beautiful figure. You really want to watch the edge, because if you dig into the edge, then you won't get a level edge for binding. So I go back and forth and I take out the lines. Alright, so here's my next jig. This is a custom jig that I built. It's a 4.5 degree jig to go back and forth on my pin router and route the neck pocket to the correct angle. So what I did is I got this at a 4.5 degree angle. I'm going to clamp the body down and I'm going to take it to the pin router. So I've got my lines marked. And I use the center of the boards here as the center line, so I match that up against my body. Get it lined up. And I clamp this down. Then I take this hold down clamp and I screw it in on the top here. This is just to keep the body level. I don't really jam it down tight. I just make sure it holds it down. So I've got my clamps on my 3 sides. Got the body all lined up. One other thing I've got to do is mark the depth that I'm going to route to. So I go to the neck. I get my ruler. It's about 1.5 inches. Go to my body. And mark that to about 1.5 inches so I know what depth I need to go to. I'm going to take this to the drill press and actually drill down so I've got some relief holes so it's easier to route. Alright, so what I do next is I take my template, my pickup routing template, I clamp it down on this angle so I get the right angle in the routes, and then I take these wedges and I shove these wedges underneath the body so that it's perfectly level and it won't move. So I take my deep reach clamp, find the spot where the wedge is, and just clamp it down here. So now I've got a great level surface. Put a couple wedges on the side here so I get a little bit more stability. So now I've got 4 points of contact here against the curved body, and I'll take my router now and I'll just route the pickups. With this route you're going to need a deep bit. So this is an 1-inch bit. Alright, so that's my process for building a Les Paul guitar body. Next step would be to bind. I have these binding bits from Stu Mac. They are probably some of the better bits because they match up to their binding with a bunch of different bearings here. I'm not sure how I want to bind this guitar, if I want to make it a Les Paul custom or if I want to do just a Les Paul standard. But this is pretty much the whole process. You know, you got to drill the control out yet. Maybe do a couple bits of final sanding once you put the binding on. But overall, that's my process. I hope you guys liked the video. And here's some additional Les Paul tips in some of my other videos.